t- t- Hello everyone, welcome back to another live stream here. Today we are back with the IRT event round 9 around Mexico. Let me quickly invite my co-commentator. Sorry for the inconvenience quickly. So he's joining us quickly before people start their runs in this qualifying session. There we go. As we're back now, welcome to the stream, Restify. Hopefully you're good. Now we're here for this Mexican Grand Prix right now, round 9 of the IRT Esports event. The season is nearing its end, and with Relentless with a dominant advantage right now in the championship, it's looking really good for them to win the IRT event, the first season of the IRT event, and they've done considerably well. But we did see a different winner last week. It was Urbeck at the end of the day picking up a second win for NRL, which was a good result for them. He was really good, but with a lot of pressure behind from BNRA Dan, So it was a quite tough race, but they did take the win. So congrats to them. But here we are for round 9. Of course, people are starting their laps right now around this Autodromo. What's its name again? Oh. This is a Mexican Grand Prix. The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez circuit here, absolutely beautiful circuit. It's going to be quite tough race for track limit, especially in tire wear. It's not the greatest around here, but it should be a good race anyway. If we do have a weather reporter in the chat, then make sure to give us some notes if the race will be dry, as we see qualifying is pretty dry right now. So it's going to be an exciting one with 18 people on the grid. We've got Aaron back with a beautiful livery once again. Many colors right there, but back on board with Luca Loh. Let me quickly get the data back on board. Bonds. I think most of the times will be within the 14s, potentially even a 13, as we see a 14.8 from JR, the first guy to set a professional lap, followed by C, who made some mistakes with a 16.2, and now it's Lucalor with a 15.6. So times are going to be very close here, I think, especially with such a difficult circuit, a long straight, and then the middle sector with a lot of quick corners, and then the final sector, some medium to low speed corners here. So it's going to be quite a tough race. Sieb's time was on the medium, so that could provide why his time might be a bit of the pace compared to others. But let's see what Roby does, as he's also on the medium tires. Didn't invalidate, so good job for him so far. Coming to the line right now, 15, and does a 15.6, so he does go second place right now. 6 tenths ahead of Sieb, so I think that's a good time there from Roby. I think the soft tire is going to be way better in qualifying, but let's see how it will be in the race, as DJ Gille goes fast with a 14.8, about 16 thousandths faster than JR, but still a half of the grid needs to set on lap time here, so expect the times to come down quick as we now go on board with Nathan here with a 28.2 first sector here, coming to the middle sector. He actually invalidated on the middle sector here, same as his teammate Commentalus here, so he won't set a representative time right now. Now as we switch quickly on board to Ruti Gullit coming through sector 1 here, the LFR driver doing pretty well here, but seems to be a bit inconsistent. Did of course choose the soft tires last week, which didn't work out at the end, which caused them to retire from a very high points position. So, and LFR is in a battle with NRL, so they do need the points, so it's better for him to be consistent, as Marcus now goes faster with a 14.6, so the times are coming down, but Ruud Gille doing really well here. Didn't invalidate here, coming through the middle sector. He is done a 55.4, which right now is a purple middle sector here. What can Ruud de Gulle do? Always very quick in qualifying and certainly on the pace once again. As he's actually invalidated here on the exit there. Very unfortunate for him, does go to the line with a 14.2, so would have been 4 tenths quicker, but force did invalidate, so the lap time won't count. So now I'm switch on board to Urbeck, who's on a cooldown lap, it seems like. Now on board with Russell with a 15.7, so a 10th behind Rowe's time on the mediums. So try to compare those times, of course. I was now on board with a late substitute, which is Lucas Supremo, and he invalidated here on this run, unfortunately. Invalidate last sector. The last sector is going to be difficult in the race, especially you don't want to cause too many track limits. As Siep is now gone 5th fastest here on the medium, so has beaten Roby's time by about a 10, so good job from him. As Job Lammers has gone 4th faster with a 15 flat, but expect those times to come down. Of course, during this qualifying session, quickly on board to another car. As everyone is pretty much in the pits right now. So we've got Bas returning to CPI after he was put in a reserve seat for now, but he's now gone. Oh, he's now gone for the second drive here for CPI today, behind his teammate on the soft tires. Good to see him on track together, both CPI drivers. But what can he do around Mexico? You should be looking forward to this race. I think it should be a good one. As now most of the guys are just going into the pit, as Urbeck has gone a 15 flat on the mediums, a really good time. Yeah, really impressive there. Well done to him. It's only about a 10th of Job Lammers' time, so that's actually a really good time there. 6 tenths ahead of Siep, who's also on the medium tires, so Urbeck's certainly good on the pace again, because Urbeck Hamilton apparently, as we see in some Discord chat right now. Urbeck in P5 right now, certainly going to want to watch out for, but what can Relentless do with Commentalis and Nathan both invalidating their runs? But now on their outlap once again. I think Relentless are just going to be looking forward to just score points with such a big advantage anyway. They're going to look forward to just score some consistent points and then see how they will face up against other drivers, other teams. But on board with Commentalis right now, coming through, on board with him down the main straight. Braking now for turn 1. 4th gear action down. He keeps it in 4th actually. It's actually invalidated run here, so we quickly switch on board to Basse, who's not on a representative time as well. So a lot of drivers indeed struggling with track limits here, like we expected. Mexico is a very difficult circuit on track limits here. Just turning in slightly too early and you can have an invalidation, and of course in the race if you get 3 warnings then you will have a 3-second penalty, so expect quite a few of them during this Grand Prix. On board with Nathan right now, what time can he do? We did see him putting up a time trial time or a Grand Prix mode, but this is not an ideal first sector for him right now, as he ran wide with Gillen now going faster with a 14.3, so good job from him right now. For the Avora team. Avora doing pretty well in qualifying, but not seeming to put it together in the race. So hopefully they can have some more consistency here. As Nathan has backed off after that attempt. As we see Lucalo going 6th faster with a 15.3, beating Siep, but Siep is now on the soft tires. Roby is Sergeant's lap right now. Same for Russell. Indeed, we've got a crash here. Quickly involved with Siep. We've got a car on the right, it's indeed Ruud de Gulle, so he will start P17 here actually for this Grand Prix. Not ideal for LFR, who are in 14th and 17th at the moment, and if Arwan sets lap, he will be P18. As we indeed see a DRA driver improve right now to a 14-1, so DRA didn't have the greatest race around Hungary, but certainly on the pace right now here in Mexico with a P1 and a P5 at the moment. But we still have some great drivers to set the lap time, with Commentalis seeing a 28.3 first sector, about the 10th of sometimes we saw, and again another invalidation here, so Commentalis really struggling here to set a lap time here. As we see Martin now DNFing here, we quickly went on board with him, and you see his suspension, his right front is off. So he is the second DNF in this qualifying session in P14, but with Commentalis, Lucas Supremo struggling to the lap time. He could potentially still be in P14, but that's not an ideal qualifying session for him. As we're back on board with Nathan right now in P13 right now. What can he do? His teammate is struggling with track limits, but can he be anywhere near the top here? A 55.7 he does middle sector. I think it's a bit off the pace of the top guy, but I think just here to set a lap time here and then go for it for the final run. He's got a DRA driver slowing down in the middle sector. Going towards the line now, Nathan will be P4, so indeed was a couple of tenths slow, potentially then Marcus, or about a tenth slower than Marcus, but that's still a good time there and a good position to be in for Nathan. Good job from him. As we saw, Job Lama struggling with his front wing off, or left front at least. Was now Urpax invalidated. He was about 4 tenths up, so certainly he's got a lot more time to find, as he did set that time on the medium tires. But P7 on the mediums is not a bad place to be at all. As now C was also invalidated. Loads of invalidation. Drivers really pushing hard to set a representative time here. And of course, if you just drive too much over the limit, then you will invalidate. So drivers like Rick and Gillip have done really well here, and Mike really cut the corner and lost the car as well nearly, so that lap won't count for sure. As Lucas Supremo again invalidated. Again invalidated, so that's unfortunate for him. As Armon actually quickly involved with him, goes P1 right now, as he was P18 with a 14 flat, so it's really looking good for Evora right here. So it's really looking good for them right now with a P1 and P3 at the moment here. So great job from him setting that lap time here. He's not Evora? Oh yeah, yes, never mind. What a great job from them so far in the P1 and the P3, so they're certainly looking to go up in the standings. As we quickly get the standings up. There was no official graphics for that quite yet, but they will come hopefully at any moment now. But Evora have 54 points and are 28 behind BNRA, but who are also quite high up. But if they score a win and a podium, then they're surely in the battle with BNRA and LFR, with them being in 3rd and 4th, and then Evora in 5th. So looking quite promising for them at the moment, but the race is going to be a different story, as a lot of drivers are on the outlaps, is with JR being the second one about to start the lap, as Lucanor is the one leading this field, as nearly spinning, starting his lap here. Not an ideal preparation for him right now, but he's starting his lap right now. As Lucanor is actually backed off, didn't think he had a good enough exit, so we'll switch on board with JR for the ESW team. He did have a podium in Japan, but was quite unfortunate in Hungary. As we're now joined by our co-commentator Donny. So if the screen got slightly bugged out, then that means someone joined the party, of course. So whenever Donny can hear me and is able to talk in this party, then welcome in to my co-commentator. Also now involved with JR's time, and he's invalidated this run, slightly cuts the inside turn there on the left. So not ideal for him right now, as Bas is gone, Bas still P9, probably going for a second cool down lap and then for one push lap. So this is going to be very interesting, that's for sure. As Gilla is starting his final run, probably at the moment now, taking a wide approach here for his start of the lap. He's in P3 right now, but can he move off the P2 and make it an Evora 1-2? Which is something we haven't seen so far, but you never know what could happen. He needs to find about 2/10. Nathan behind him on a lap as well. Here, what can he do? About 5/10 off R1's time. Would post a great lap here. And as he's actually spun, Nathan has spun here, so he definitely won't improve. Roby's gone into P6 with a 14.5, but that's Nathan's qualifying done, so it will be, I think, relentless in... Yeah, and Commentator's also invalidated, so could he? I reckon he can still do a final run, but it's not looking good for Relentless, especially with Urpek setting a fastest time with a 13.8. What a great time there for Urpek. Definitely someone on a good consistency right now. Shame his teammates a bit lower down, but probably on another run still, as he just actually starting his final round right now. Russell going to sector 1 here. Sadly lost the car there on the exit, but he found 4/10 already after sector 1, and most of the time is still to be found in this middle sector here. He's doing pretty well right now, didn't invalidate right now. He's actually doing really well here, didn't cut the corner at all still, and going on the absolute limit here. A 55 is about a good middle sector, and he's about 2/10 quicker than Nathan, who was in P7. So where will he end up in this? Will he make it a 1-2 for NRL? Rick has pitted, so he won't improve. Bas has gone P5 for CPI, so great lap from him on his debut in this event, and he will be in P3, so a 1-3 for NRL gives them some sort of opportunity to challenge Relentless, with Relentless down in P9 and P17 at the moment. But actually that switched quickly to P13, but not an ideal qualifying for Relentless. As we quickly say hello to Donny, who's now joined us in the commentary box. Welcome in.
Hello everyone. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Sorry if I'm a bit late. I had like priorities and stuff, but from what I've seen, it looks like a very exciting start with Arapek on pole and Evora looking quite strong around this track, so it could be a very interesting race.
Indeed, like I said, Evora, a very good performance there in second and third place, splitting both NRL drivers. We missed Gilles time, who improved, and they're still on the pace, but Urpek showing that he's very strong in the race. So are they able to keep up? We're not sure, but it's going to be an exciting race. DRA Rick has done really well there in P5 with Lucas Supremo, doing much better than his teammate, at least in P6. Bas as well, Bas beating his teammate by about 2/10, and those 2/10 did get a P7. Roby did get P10, so that's actually a worse spot to be, because Seep is the first on the alternative strategy, with JR just behind him. Commentalus did have a messy session in P13 as well, so a bit of a mixed up grid today, apart from like the top 4. After the top 4, it's everyone pretty much mixed in between, so every team is just throughout each other. What do you think of that qualifying session?
Yeah, it was an interesting qualifying, even though I wasn't really here for most of it. It just looks very interesting. It looks like NLR versus Warrior today, so I'm really intrigued to see who can come out on top, because remember, Relentless has dominated almost every single round in this championship, so it would be nice just to get a change essentially, and just to see who can maximize and get the most points possible, which team.
Yes, you made a very good point right there. But apparently, from maths, apparently Relentless can claim the championship right now. Let me quickly get on board. How many points? Of course, they are ahead. They are about 112 points ahead of NRL, with 3 rounds. Oh yeah, 3 rounds go after this, which are France, Netherlands, and Bahrain. So about 44 times 3 we need. So 132. So they realistically need 20 points to outscore. They need to outscore NRL by 20 points to claim the championship today. But with Relentless being so far down, I don't think that's going to be the case, as we actually have a dry race right now. What do we think of the race then, Donny?
I'm gonna go for RPEC P1. I'm gonna go for a Relentless drive in second.
Ooh.
And in third, I might go for Arwin.
Arvin, so yeah, that could be potentially the case. You're still saying a relentless podium. I think I'm pretty sure they've scored in every round a podium. So can they keep that streak alive? Let's see if that's the case. As we're now away from the formation lap here, it looks to be just a very dry race right now. No rain at all. Actually, in my echo, so that's not ideal. So. Guessing you have the stream open.
Ruti Gillett could be a dark horse in this race, in my opinion. He has pace. He's proven he's had pace, and I really think that he could get at least a top 5 in this race. Don't count him out.
Never count out Ruti Gillett there. He did crash out of that qualifying session, but I think you're echoing. Or you're echoing compared to, like, I'm mirroring myself, so. Also, just fixing this difficult issues right now, technical difficulties, but that's gonna be solved now. Yeah, I think it's good like this. Perfect. Also, actually see Ruti Gillett spinning on the formation lap. You just using a different method to warm up his tires. I wouldn't recommend doing that in a Grand Prix, but you can do it now if you want to. But it's gonna cost you a bit of tire wear, as he's actually going all over the track here. But we're gonna switch over to someone who's actually able to stay on track, which is coming through the final sector right now, as its car is about to be taken over before they enter the pits. With Aaron just behind, it's gonna be a very exciting Grand Prix. I think we're gonna see a CPI win today ahead of Lucas Supremo and then Russell in P3. I think potentially the top 3 will have some sort of incident here, you never know. But of course we do not hope or not wish for that to happen. But that's my prediction for this Grand Prix. Hopefully everyone in the chat is excited as well, as we're now all pretty much lined up, as Ruud Gillett has found his starting spot on the grid for this Grand Prix. So 1 light, 2 light, 3 light, 4 light, and 5 lights. And away we go. It seems to be a very good start from R1 here. A better start than Urpac, and is indeed taking the lead. But who can pick up the slipstream here? Of course, it's a very long run down to turn 1 here. But it seems to be R1 who keeps the lead ahead of Urpac, braking very late here. Not taking the Hamilton line here with some...
R1's gone wide.
They're side by side, running a bit wide indeed, but it seems to be that he's keeping the lead for now for Evora. It looks like Gillett didn't have the greatest start, down to P6 for the Evora team, and it's indeed R1 keeping the lead with loads of battles happening in the midfield. And it's Russell up to P3 and Rick on one position
Arpic
as
is
well.
applying a lot of pressure on Arwin, so keep an eye on that.
Indeed, indeed. Of course, Urbex is like he is so strong in qualifying. He's also very strong in the race, proving that they have such good race pace here. But of course, there are plenty of battles happening in the midfield with, I think, the biggest losers, Max here. Max, let me check quickly the details here. The position change, indeed, he lost 5 positions on that start, Max did, so I'm not sure if some incident happened, but he's the biggest loser from that start. As we've got a spinner here, it's Mike who spun here in sector 3 here. Not ideal for him being a late reserve here, but of course that promotes Roby and Seep both in the top 10. Lucas Supremo lost 2 positions and Gille also lost 3 positions, so not been great for those guys. But yeah, we're now just settling down and the DRS trains are starting to arrive. Actually, never mind, it's Rick and Russell both nearly a second this interval from the leader. Let me quickly get the interval up so don't get confused. So indeed, the DRS trains are starting to appear here with loads of guys just being in 3/10 within each other. Of course, DRS is going to be very important here with the long run down to turn 1. You can gain at least, I think, 3/10, 2/10 at least from that. And if drivers use ERS, there's probably going to be more. So it's going to be a very difficult Grand Prix. Stick within the DRS window, but let's see what's gonna happen. As we've got a spinner here, it's Job Lames who was in the top 10. I'm pretty sure, but now has
the DRA are muddied. I swear to you, every race, one of them spin. You can't tell me otherwise.
Indeed. But like, happy that Rick hasn't spun yet for the DRA team, but there's still a long way to go. There's at least 34 laps of this Grand Prix still, and there could be plenty of safeguards still. So I recommend just keep going, and then maybe your fortune will change. But retiring after something has happened is not something I would recommend. But quickly switching on board to the leaders now, as Arwan's got a slight gap there of about 6/10 to Urpec, which his teammates also very close behind, about half a second. So indeed the DRS trains is in full effect here, and drivers not taking many risks here, as of course they don't want to get warnings resulting into 3-second penalties here for this Grand Prix. But the medium runners, I think let me quickly get the tires up for the guys here indeed, and we see the lead medium runner is Seep in the top 10. The important thing for them is
Lucolor has disconnected.
Can you potentially invite him back so we can continue to watch the stream? But like I want to say, Seep is the lead medium runner. His most important thing he can do is stick within the DRS window here, as Lucolor is back in the session. He was down in P16, lost a couple of seconds here, but he's still somewhat in the race. I recommend just keep pushing us.
Arpec has overtaken R1 with using DRS.
Like, good point you made there. Urpec has used the DRS and is pulling clear of R1 here. Not sure how much ERS he used, but like I said, he moved ahead and now in the lead. Can his teammate do the same? So now see Roby overtake Lucas Supremo. Both drives on the soft tires. Can he potentially overtake Lucas Supremo? Lucas Supremo seems to be lacking a little bit, but seems to be okay for now, as Roby did make the move work. Us now back on board with Urpec. There looks to be a timing glitch, but Urpec seems to be taking that clean air to a great advantage, as he's pulling clear of R1. But can R1 stick within the DRS window, as Commentalis becomes the second driver to pick up a penalty after Ruud Gullit. So Commentalis really struggling for this race right now, down in P13. But then again, he is on the medium tires, and if you can avoid warnings for the rest of the race and other guys can pick up penalties, then he's certainly still in a decent position to score points, as R1 used that DRS and probably a bit of ERS to stick within 1 second here, as Gille is really struggling and moving 1 second, falling 1 second clear of Rick, who was also nearly 1 second behind Russell. So the DRS train is slightly taking a change. As we see now, there's contact! There's contact between R1 and Russell. Russell was on the inside of R1, and it looks like both drivers made contact here. I think it's a bit of like Mick Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel incident from the Miami Grand Prix yesterday. I'm not sure what happened there. Of course, these incidents will be looked at by the stewards if deemed reported. But this does allow Rick to be moved up to P3 and within the DRS window once again. But does have R1 potentially have damage? I hope he does not. As Nathan has actually picked up a penalty, so Relentless really... This is their poorest weekend so far. Let's not jinx them, of course, but it's not looking ideal for them right now. Max also picked up a penalty, so his race has not been ideal at all. Seep's actually lost a second to Lucas Supremo, so not what he wanted, as JR is now looking to move ahead of Seep here.
IRT seems to be struggling in this tournament. Don't you find it ironic?
It's very ironic, especially with me being commentator. As actually Joe has picked up the penalty, so you see 5 guys picking up penalties right now. So Nathan is up to P6 after moving out of Roby, was battling very hard here, and Nathan leaving the room there, and Roby's on the inside. What a battle we're seeing here right now for between both drivers, and they're still side by side, and it's Nathan is now ahead, and R1 picked up another penalty, so all the penalties picking in, but these drivers certainly having a great battle here through sector 1 and 2 right now, but they're still so close to each other here. Donny, what do you think of the race so far with so many penalties falling now here for the drivers?
I'm honestly not surprised, to be honest. This is Mexico we're talking about. This is like corner cutting central, so I mean, it will be very surprising to see a few drivers without any penalties, because this is a very difficult track to get right. When you nail it, you've gone clear, but there's always a few drivers who struggle on this track.
Indeed, like you said, and just when we were talking about penalties, Job Lamas picks up his first penalty, so that's for 7 drivers with penalties after 7 laps, so after 8 laps you should have 8 drivers with penalties by that logic, as actually Max has moved ahead of Seep, and JR did as well, so they're now in the top 10, but lots of battling happening right here with Lucas Supremo and Bas now down the inside. They make contact, they both spun, and it looks like that Lucas Supremo slightly turned in too early, and this does allow JR up to P8. Another set of yellow flags probably for the incident between Lucas Supremo and Bas. Brussels another penalty with a penalty here, so lots of the top drivers picking up penalties. So this is gonna be good for drivers like Roby, Rick, JR and Seep, who all have no penalties so far, and they can really move forward, especially JR and Seep, who are all on the medium tires and certainly have a pace advantage. I'm not sure what the strategy is right here. I'm not sure if you know the strategy around Mexico for this day and age.
It tends to be a 2-stop. Like, there's always that one person who tries to make it a 1-stop, but they realize they're so slow, so they end up coming in for a 2-stop. But I feel like the medium runners will have the advantage at the end, because the soft runners will have to pit again for a set of either softs or mediums, and then they're gonna have to pit again. And in terms of with the mediums, they can do medium and then softs. So they have more of an advantage, because either way, the soft runners will still have to change compounds. So that's severely a disadvantage.
Totally agree with you. As we see, whilst you were talking, we see Bas diving into pits after the collision with not as nearly said Ruud Gulle, but it was of course his teammate Lucas Supremo. He spotted on a set of fresh tires. Let's see what he can do now with those fresh tires compared to the older soft tires. I'm not sure how the soft tires are at the moment, but it looks to be pretty well right now for the NRL drivers who are 1 and 2, but Rick is very close behind. Same for R1, so all these drivers are still in contention for the win here, as Max moved ahead of JR, so the medium's not in the perfect window right now, as actually Bas picks up a penalty here. Marty picks up a penalty right now, so I can't keep up with the penalties right now. But it's Marcus now nearly clearing JR of DRS. So
Rick goes for a move on Russell, and he makes the move, but Russell is fighting back.
completely missed that. Cheers for the update right there. It's Rick moving ahead of Russell here. Russell
Now Arwen's looking to attack. But he stays.
Oh, we've got a spin here. It's Seep. Seep is unfortunately spun into him on. Does he have front wing damage? He was in battle with Commentalis and Rudy Gullit, and see now he's dropping backwards. So it's JR who's the lead medium runner, as Russell's picked up another penalty here. So he's on 6 seconds. Let me quickly get the graphic up for penalties. So we've got 2 drivers now in 6 seconds, which are Russell and Nathan, and then we've got I think 6 or 7 drivers on 3-second penalties after just 9 laps here. So for the guys who are not don't have any penalties right now, they are in really good shape there. So watch out for those guys without penalties. Indeed. So we saw Marcus having a poor start there, but he somewhat found himself as Rossos moved ahead of Rick again. But Marcus has somewhat found himself again after a poor start. He's now back up to P8 and not having bad pace at all. He's just losing so much time on the DRS window here. He's now 3.3 behind Roby, who's in the DRS of Nathan. And Nathan is about 3 seconds behind Gille, so it does prove that the DRS matters. But Marcus seems to have decent pace in the corner, so hopefully he can catch up a bit. And this is good for the median runners behind, with especially JR, Commentalis, Rudy Gullit. They are all in the DRS of Marcus ahead, and they can just DRS along and catch up to Roby potentially, who picked up a penalty by as well. So there's only 6 drivers left without penalties, so the list is getting big, as Rick is also now one with a penalty and Sieb is now one with a penalty, so all the penalties flying in. It's a quite
everyone
incredible
is
right now.
Today.
Indeed. We saw last week around Hungary that penalties were okay, as we now got an undercut here by Russell. Russell with the undercut. Yesterday we saw Russell going for the overcut by pitting, hoping for a safety car, which worked out. And now we see the other Russell going for the undercuts here. What can he do on those fresh tires? As Roby has moved ahead of Nathan. So I think this is the crossover point for the medium runners. We're going to see the medium tires proving to have better pace. Actually, Roby's on the soft tires. I thought Roby was on the medium tires, apologies for that. So Roby is now in P5, of course it's JR the lead medium runner, apologies for that one. But Russell has come back in P13, about 2 seconds behind Seep here, but what can he do on this undercut, Tony?
Yeah, I think it's a smart strategy, I really do, but I think that people who stay out is more better advantage. Because if you think about it, if you stay out, you still have fresher tires, so you could either gain back the gap, or you could just stay out, let the gap build. Because I myself am a league racer, and one time I was in a race around Portugal, and someone pit 3 laps prior, and those 3 laps was crucial in the race.
Indeed.
And I managed to gain a 3-second gap within a lap, just because of I had younger tires. So I feel like the overcut could be a better strategy than the undercut around this track.
Well, we've got 2 drivers listening to you, which are Erpek and Rick, and then they're both F4 drivers, Nathan, Roby, Max, all pitting and not responding to you, and Russell's still ahead of R1, but look at the gap Russell's created just by that undercut. Nearly 2 seconds clear, and now in the DRS window of Seep, so that definitely worked out quite a bit for him. But
remember, he will have older tires.
Indeed. He will now have 1 lap older tires, as Commentalis is in a battle with Rudy Gullit and JR, who are now all in clean air. Nathan picks up his 3rd penalty, so he's certainly falling down a bit here. I'm pretty sure I saw him around Canada this weekend in League of Europe. He was about in podium place, and then but because he scored he had 15 seconds of penalties, it means he dropped all the way down to P13. So that does show that penalties just matter so much in this game and league racing in general. But we've now got our leader Urpek going into the pit, staying out 2 laps longer than Russell. Will that prove out beneficial for him? I'm not too sure, but he does have great pace. Rick's still staying out, so he takes the lead of the Grand Prix. But let's stay on ball with Urpek and Russell. I think Russell might have done the undercut here on his teammate, and he certainly did. About a 1.5 second gap. Siebes also cleared him, so Russell takes the provisional lead right now, as now Ruud Gullit still in the battle with JR, and Commental is just watching close behind. But Russell's done the undercut, fair play to him, but he does need to manage his tires for a bit. So see JR and Ruud Gullit in a battle still, going around the outside. JR leaving the space on the inside for Ruud Gullit, but Ruud Gullit just proving think better of it. But this does allow Rick to pull away, who's got nearly a 9-second advantage here. So Rick is doing really well on the soft tires. Is he potentially going to do the one stop here, you reckon?
I think he'll try. I can't tell you the fastest strategy, but I can tell you that it's worth the risk, because at this moment in time he has nothing to lose, so he might as well just go for it.
I totally agree with you right there, and with DRA being last, he might as well just try the one stop here. And with Urpek struggling later on with the tires potentially, and Russell as well, he can just catch up back on those back if he wants to. And I think if you can do 14 laps on those 14 laps on those soft tires, then you certainly can do on the medium tires. Donny, if you do have to go, then I will thank you for this short time there for helping me in the commentary box, and I will just take it over.
No worries. Have a great evening, and everyone enjoy the race.
I thank you for joining the commentary box. So it will be for me. It will be me on my own for until now. So quickly involved with JR, who lost both positions to Ruud Gullit and Commentalis. But he does not have a penalty, so I think JR is taking a slower approach here, as Donny has now left the session. Shame that he had to leave once again. Marty in P5, only about 3 seconds behind, to be fair, so I think Marty does not have bad pace at all. Just he's losing so much time without DRS, but JR is taking a slower approach. Actually, Commentalis lost DRS to Ruud Gullit, so Ruud Gullit does have that great pace, but Rick has made a pit stop right now. Where will he rejoin in terms of Urpek and Russell? Russell's already past the pits here, but look at that. It's not even, the gap is not even that big. He's rejoined just ahead of Nathan right here. Nathan in P10. So Rick has done really well despite staying out about 4 laps longer than all of those other stop runners. So Rick is in really good shape for that one stop strategy here. So great job from Rick right there. Can he potentially get a second win of this season? Of course, he did score a win around Belgium here, as Roby is now moved ahead of Nathan, who've been battling all race here. Around the outside, Nathan goes, squeezing him off the track, Roby does, and now they're battling very hard, making contact with each other here. But that does not provide them any time gain or something, as now Rick clears them off the arrest. Another set of penalties coming in. Let me quickly get the penalty check back again. As now Russell is on 9 seconds, Nathan on 9 seconds, Arvon on 6 seconds, and the rest are on 3 seconds apart from Urpek, JR and Luca Lohr. So well done to those guys without having any penalties so far. Keep it up, guys. As now Urpek in the DRS window of Arvon. Arvon did overtake Urpek, so the undercut of Russell really proved out difference here, as Job Lammers picks up a penalty. JR moving ahead of Commentalis, who's in a battle right there. We're seeing the further distance, but JR trying to move ahead now with DRS down the inside. He goes of Commentalis and takes back second place. Commentalis trying to line up for the switchback. Potentially Max picks up a penalty in P12 right now. But all the battling they're doing is losing them time to Marty, who's slowly but surely gaining time to them. So Marty's found some decent race pace here. He's doing rather well right now. Marty is. So indeed the gap is now down to 2.2. He's now win. Our second behind is Russell right now, but Marty is doing pretty well for this race right now. Russell within a second, and Urbeck ahead of R1 once again. So I'm not sure how much Marty will defend this. I think he should just work together and try to catch up to Commentalus, who is now about to overtake JR once again. These drivers are just switching position per position every single lap right now. But I can't blame them. They're just DRS training each other. But all the battling they're doing from the last couple of laps has allowed Ruud Gullit to move ahead, as we've got a spinner, which is Job Lamers. Job Lamers on the medium tires does not hit the wall, but I think a spin is not ideal. He's going into the pits. Is that going to be a retirement? It's not so far, but it's not ideal. As indeed Russell has moved ahead of Marty, who is catching up, of course, to the back of the cars ahead here. So can Marty stick within the 1 second window for the next DRS straight? As Ruud picks up another penalty here. So you just see that all the guys without penalties are really going to move forward. And if a safety car does happen, then you never know. Apparently I'm a race director, which I would not mind being a race director if I had the choice. If I had the opportunity to be a race director and work in F1 in general, I'd take it, honestly. As Marty's now decides going into the pit, he does not want to stay on this soft set for any longer, but I think JR, Commentalist will all try to stay out. What tire is actually Marty going on? He's going to go for a set of soft, so he's going to be a 2-stop potentially. I don't think he can stretch those tires 18 laps. I think he will be ahead of his teammate. Actually no, because Seep is about to overtake them on the line. But let's see what the progress Rick can do. Of course, he did have a set of fresher tires by pitting later. But let's see how... Yeah, indeed, he's just pitted about 4 laps later than most of the guys. And 2 laps later than Urbeck, who's in a battle with R1 once again. So all the time they're losing to Rick. But Urbeck does not have a penalty, so... I think we just saw penalties now. Let me check now. But this battle has been amazing so far. Position lost quickly once again. We see the top guys, Ruud Gullit from the back of the grid, now in the lead of the Grand Prix. Well done to him. Interestingly, R1's light is now flashing, so that means he's got less than 20% deployment he can use. Here's the fast lap by Urbeck at 16.8 right now. The only driver within the 16s, it looks like, next to Seep. And then here we are with penalties. Loads of penalties right now, as Nathan has got 12. Lucas Apremo has got, I'm pretty sure 6 now. Loads of drivers with 6 here. So a lot of interesting battles right there, as JR and Commental is battling once again. And now Nathan down the inside of Roby. These drivers are battling once again. And just going to be going on for the next couple of rounds or races. That's the same. Laps, I mean. They're just gonna keep on battling as long as they're within the DRS window of each other here. So, gonna be interesting as Roby track extended here. Could be a warning potentially. And once again, as Urbex actually nearly following 1 second behind, as now Bas and Commentalist and R1 picked up a penalty. So, could we see the disqualification potentially by penalties? I do not hope that's the case. With only 19 laps passed and still pretty much half of the race still to go. So if the drivers do keep going like this, then there could be a disqualification falling here, which we do not want to see. But this just proves if you have no penalties, then you can really just move forward. So I think JR and Urbeck are in great shape to pick up another win. And with Relentless falling a bit, that means just good chance for NRL to catch up a lot of points. Will they win the championship? Most likely not, but you never know. As long as there's an opportunity, then they will go for it. Well, I don't think Relentless are gonna allow that to happen here. As now JR is, as you got a spinner, it's Marcus. Marcus has spun. We wanted to commentate the battle, of course, within the lead, but Marcus has unfortunately spun, so down to P14 behind Seeb right now. Woos played for a set of soft tires, same for his teammate, who's about 3 seconds behind. And now Urpak has picked up a penalty, so that means only 2 drivers have no penalties. Job Lammers retires in the pits after another spin, it looks like, so that becomes our first retiree of the Grand Prix. But indeed, Ruud Gullit still in the lead. Great pace right now with Ross now in second ahead of Commentalis, who is really defending hard against Jill here, who's moved ahead of JR. JR still in the DRS window. I'm not sure he's taking difficult. He's actually going into the pits. He is going for the undercut. He is going for a set of soft tires most likely and trying to move ahead of... Indeed, there's a soft tires on right now, trying to move ahead of Commentalis, who's still in the DRS window but in the battle. So is this a good call from JR? I think it is, because he can use those fresh soft tires to move clear now of the cars ahead. But this is certainly becoming an interesting Grand Prix here, with Jill now following a second behind Russell. So Russell has really made that undercut work. So well done to him. So quickly switching back to the battle between Commentalis and Urpak. I know JR didn't pit before, that was his first stop, as Nathan picked up another penalty. I think Javi should be focusing on coaching Nathan not to pick up more penalties, because he's on 15 seconds right now. If you quickly switch back to the penalties, indeed he's the only driver above 10 seconds, as now Commentalis has gone into the pits here for Relentless, going for a set of stops, responding to the undercut of JR, who is actually close behind Makke. So I don't think the undercut has worked to perfection. This will promote, I think, Seeb and Marty back up to 11th and 12th. I think it will. It has indeed. But where will JR be? I think JR has cleared Commentalis. Has he? Yes, he has. But they're still within the DRS window of each other. And now JR is clear of the DRS window, of course. Now these guys are in a battle once again. Roby and Nathan has been battling all race here, and they're certainly not helping each other by probably picking up some warnings. We're vibing with the tackles. Let's go. We love to see it. But now I think too much vibes going on with Nathan, as his light is flashing and he's got 15 seconds of penalty, so he will move down loads of positions here if he's not careful. As Rick is 3 tenths behind R1. R1 is potentially starting to struggle a bit on those tires, but respect to Ruud Gullit, who's actually gaining advantage on Russell. So is Russell starting to struggle on those tires, with Jill very close behind and Urpak with a 3-second penalty also very close behind. So Ruud Gullit doing really well here on those old mediums. So if he had a decent qualifying, or even like a P11 or 12, then he could be even further ahead. Just sums up the pace he has, as Roby moves ahead of Nathan once again. Here, right for the CPI team ahead of Relentless. I think Nathan will move outside of the top 10, especially if a safety car does happen, but doesn't seem to be the case right now, as we see Seeb now closing the gap to Bas here. Bas, of course, really had that unfortunate incident with the car ahead, which was Lucas Supremo. Could be beneficial till the end of the Grand Prix. Can I show penalties? Of course I can. Lost probably. Well, you see Nathan with 15 seconds, actually nearly following a second behind Roby, so he does not want that to be the case. But there you go, that's the penalty check right now. Hopefully you've seen it. I think Urpak is still the favorite to win this Grand Prix with just less penalties in general, as now Marty is moved ahead of Seeb. So Seeb is clearly helping Marty to pick up a better position here. Marty just having better pace than Siep today, as Rudiger decided to make a pit stop with Luca now picking up a penalty, so I think he was on 6 seconds, as Rudiger is actually moving just ahead of Bas here. So Rudiger has done an amazing stint, because he was in that battle with JR and Commentalers and now is ahead of all those guys, and even clear of both IRT drivers. So Rudiger has done amazing rides here and now can use those fresh soft tires to catch up to his teammate Luca Supremo and Roby and Nathan, who are all struggling on those tires with penalties. Luca is going to the pits here. But now we're switching on ball with the battle in the lead. I think Russell's tires are starting to fade a little bit, with Urbeck now in second and Jill in third place. We again missed that overtake. That percentage is now down to 11%. As Siep has picked up a penalty now here, as now both NRL drivers in a 1-2 position right now. This is pretty much ideal for them right now. But what can Jill do in third place? And Arwon, of course, also a Navora driver. So this is going to be an exciting battle. What will NRL do? Are they going to do the switch, or are they going to stay within position here? I think they've done the switch indeed, but you hear Russell just lifting slightly, allowing Urbeck to go into the lead and moving clear of Russell, as Roby is actually going into the pits. Roby's actually decided he can't stick those tires out for much longer, as now Siep, JR and Marty are now all in the battle, with JR going around the outside here. What a move there from JR, clearing now Marty, and the only driver without a penalty here, up to P9. Can he catch up to Ruud Gelud now? And Commental is trying to move ahead of Siep as well, just not able to here just now. And now Bas also on P13, so his medium tires are really falling off here. As now got a spinner here, it's Nathan. Nathan has spun, so after just after Roby is pitted, Nathan was clear, but now has spun and is now within the clutch distance of Luca Supremo, who is nearly in the DRS window of Ruud Gullit, as Commentalis picks up another penalty. So Relentless Race is going down from bad to worse here, with Nathan having the spin and so many penalties here, as Lucas Supremo is getting closer and closer, but Ruud Gullit having the fresh soft tires, you're using that to advantage. We got Arwon battling here with Rick, and Rick going around the outside. What a move there from Rick, giving each other space and knocking each other off. As oh my goodness, Arwon nearly losing the car here. Both drivers really pushing out, squeezing a bit each other bit of track, as actually Lucas Supremo picks up a penalty, with Commentalis now moving ahead of Siep, who spun. Probably a bit of contact happening right there. So Siep is having an oval race right now for IRT here, so it's not been a great afternoon for him, with his teammate ahead of him right now in the points with only one penalty. So could be a good chance for him to score some good points, Marty, with Aaron picking up a penalty. And what can JR do on those soft tires? Can he catch up to Lucas Supremo? The gap is about 4 seconds here, so hopefully he can catch up a little bit here, as Urbeck starts lap 27 right now, with Russell actually making a pit stop right here, so he cannot stretch out that stint anymore, with Aaron also making a pit stop. Both drivers going for a set of soft tires, so our driver is starting to regret pitting too early here, with Bas picking up a penalty. But what can Russell do? Can he stay out till can he catch up to the rest of the pack, with actually Roby doing the undercut here and C picking up a 5-second penalty here? So it's going really from bad to worse here, but Roby is actually cleared Russell right now, so Russell's got to overtake Roby here if he wants to get in within the points again. So this race is really spicing up. So now Russell's picked up a penalty here, so much stuff is happening right now. It's incredible right now. So actually the guys who starting on the medium tires with JR, Marty and Commentalist are really starting to be beneficial here, as JR's soft tires are still really good. Same for Ruud Gullit, who's now in P4 ahead of Nathan. So I'm not sure when that happened because I was too busy watching the midfield battle here. But Rudy Gullit is in really good shape here. Can he catch up to Urbeck? I'm not sure if that will happen, but I'm sure Urbeck will just stay out till the end. But Rick has also got fresh tires, so what will happen in this race, God knows. But it's going to be a very exciting end to the Grand Prix with JR getting closer and closer to Luca Supremo, who's at the same time pretty much matching Nathan here. The gap was about 1.2 and now 2.1 as Marty's decided to make a pit stop here, so he thinks the soft tires can't go longer. So what about the medium tires? All sorts of different strategies happening right here around the Mexican circuit. That means he's now down to P13. I think he will move ahead of Bas just about. Will be close. As JR has actually now moved behind Commentalis. So Commentalis using his fresh soft tires as well. But JR is the only driver still without a penalty. So this will be beneficial at the end of the Grand Prix, with now Russell moving ahead of Roby as Rutte picks up a penalty here. So another 3-second penalty. Let me quickly get up the penalty once again because loads of penalties have happened right now. So it's Urbeck with 3 seconds. It's Gillo with 6. Rick with 3 seconds. Rutte with 9. Nathan with 15. Most of the grid right now. Lucas Supremo with 9. Commentalis with 9. JR with 0. Let me get that straight again. 0 penalties. And then Russell with 12. Roby with 3. R1 with 12. Max with 9, Marty with 3, Bas with 9, C with a speeding penalty and then 6 seconds of its own, 3 seconds for Lucalor, and then Mike rounding out the grid in P8 or P17 with 3 seconds. So Lucalor actually picking up another penalty now. Not ideal for him right now. But let's see how these medium runs can last as Nathan picks up his 18th second penalty here. As R1 picks up also a penalty, he's now up to, I think, 9 seconds here. I'm not sure where he is yet. Oh, he's actually up to 15, so really struggling here. As JR has actually moved down to Roby. As you see now, both drivers in a battle right now. JR squeezing off Roby here. Off track is actually it's actually overtaking him off track, so I think that could be an illegal overtake as Roby nearly spun actually. Great battle there, but I think that was an illegal overtake, so that's something the stewards might have to look at, and he might have to let him through if CPR are aware. But JR is still in really good shape to pick up a really good result here, with the field being so close to each other. I think the best thing JR has to do is just stick within the DRS window, and then he'll gain so many positions here. With now only 7 laps to go here. With Commentalis in the DRS window of Lucas Supremo, who's on the medium tires, so he's going to be defending for his life. As Commentalis got so much overspeed here and going down the inside here of Lucas Supremo. Both drivers making contact with each other, but I think Commentalis is going to stick with it. They make contact here with Lucas Supremo now off track here, and Commentalis using his soft tires to advantage. I think Russell is going to look for the move as well, just behind him now. And going down the inside, does he go down the inside of Commentalis? No, he does not, but Lucas Supremo is still sticking. Both drivers making contact with each other, making Lucas Supremo spin. So Lucas Supremo now outside the points here in P11. I'm not sure whoever followed what stewards will look at it. There was some questionable moves there from all the drivers. And now Gilla has moved behind Ruud. I'm not sure what happened to Gilla here. Gilles picked up damage. You see clearly on the right front, or left front, sorry, he picked up some front wing damage. So that's disaster for Evora here, who's now having to make a pit stop with only 6 laps to go after this. Didn't speed in the pit lane thankfully, but this is a disaster for him. And Evora, this sees him moving down all the way down to about P14 around Seep and Marty here. As now Russell has moved ahead of Commentalis. A great battle between these drivers here, and we just see Nathan ahead of Russell right now. And do you reckon Nathan will potentially hold up Russell a bit to get Commentalis back into play here? Of course, Russell does have more penalties to Commentalis, so could they keep up? And Roby only has 3 seconds, so could Roby still score a podium here for And indeed, you see both drivers battling very hard here, but it's Russell ahead of Nathan, and actually Roby has taken advantage of it. Roby is now actually they make contact, unbelievable scenes here. Roby has hit Russell, which made him spin. What an incredible moment right there in this Grand Prix. Roby hitting Russell right there. Russell with another penalty right here, so Russell's race is surely done. I think the undercut on lap 11 did work there, but just could not save the tires till the end. And now Nathan has got some damage. It looks like Nathan has indeed got some damage. He's gonna have to make a pit stop here with 18 seconds of penalty. So relentless, moving down so many positions right here. And JR still within the DRS window. What is going on here? I think the stewards are gonna have fun after this Grand Prix by the amount of incidents happening on in this Grand Prix here. And it's now Russell down to P9, just behind Lucas Supremo, but he does have more penalties, so he could potentially move down even more positions. As Commentalis somehow from the back of the Grand, or from P13, is now in P5, so he's not actually done really well here. He will move behind JR if JR doesn't get any penalties, and if he does, then create a 6-second gap. But I think Commental has done really well still, from really far down, just to be a couple of seconds, about 15 seconds of the lead still. I think that's pretty impressive despite all the battling he's had to do. But here is now the battle for the lead of this Grand Prix. He has done. This has been a great battle between these two drivers as he picks up a penalty. But Rick, with the fresher tires than Urpek, can use those tires to advantage. He's actually indeed spun here as Ruud picks up another penalty, so this could potentially give an opportunity to Roby to move ahead. He certainly will, as Gillip sets the fastest lap right now. But we're now on board with the lead battle. Rick doesn't want to do that too much, otherwise he might get another penalty here. Well, what will Rick do? He does not have loads of ERS, same for Urpek. This is gonna be a spicy into the Grand Prix after, and we have 3 laps after they've crossed the line for this lap, so this is gonna be a spicy end of the Grand Prix. Let's see what's gonna happen, but Rick is certainly looking good as Nathan picks up another penalty. 21 seconds for Nathan, so we were wishing no disqualifications, but I'm pretty sure it's only 2 penalties away from disqualification, or 1. I'm not sure what's gonna happen. Seep also on 14, so he's not done that well. Marty's actually doing quite well, so he could potentially still score a point scoring position, which of course we would love to see. But on board with, of course, the lead battle right now. So quickly switching on board back to Arbon, who's now overtaking Commentalis with more penalties, but he's moving up to P5 right now. Lucado picking up another penalty in P16. Not been the greatest Grand Prix for him, unfortunately. But Arbon clearing Commentalis now. But can he move forward now? JR has moved down a lot of. He has lost a lot of time, so I think he's just conserving the tires. Of course, he did go for the undercut compared to Russell, which I think worked somewhat. Or he went for the undercut on Ruud Gullit and Commentalis, but it's clearly showing the tires are starting to go off a little bit. But he's doing still really well for no penalties. On board with him right now, it's actually Rick has taken the lead. Rick has taken the lead from Urpek here. We lost. I didn't expect him that move, but he's done really well there. Rick, I'm not sure. I think he might have made the move in the hairpin. I think I'm not sure what's happening to Urpek here. Has Urpek somehow? Does Urpek have an issue here? Because he's losing all sorts of time here. He's now lost the arrest to Rick here, so I think Urpek just lost all of his grip right here. So I think Rick is looking really good for the race win, but actually Ruud is now within the DRS window, so the race is really opening up right now for Rick. Can he pick up his second win here this season for DRA, who are last in the standings, but certainly wouldn't mind a race win here? As JR is losing a lot of time to Commentalist, so if that gaps keep opening up, then you will see Commentalist move ahead of JR still. I'm certain he won't lose. Indeed, I think surely Upex's got an issue here, but just letting Ruud Gullit go through. I think he just wants the DRS personally, which is not a bad choice, as Nathan now is 24 seconds, so I think one penalty of being disqualified. 24 seconds is a personal record. I've not seen that happening too much recently, but Upex surely has got an issue here. I'm not sure what's happening to his race pace, but he's going really slow here right now. I think he just lost all of his grip, and this is perfect for Rick, as now Nathan, I'm not sure what's happening to him, but he's just picking up penalty after penalty. 27 seconds. He's nearly got 30 seconds of penalties. As we're now on board with Rick on the final lap. Ruud Gullit has done really well from last on the grid after crashing out in qualifying. Is about 1.2 seconds behind the race leader. So Ruud Gullit made an incredible comeback here with a center helmet here. I think if it wasn't for the penalties, of course, he would be so much higher up. That's easier said than done, but he's within 1 second of Rick, but I don't think this is going to take anything away from Rick. Rick is going to take it really careful here in the final corners, and hopefully to take DRA's second win here. As we now see quickly on board with him. Do we see the fireworks? Some fireworks. We see the confetti. Marty picks up a penalty, which is not ideal for him right now. As we see Rick going across the line now for the second win for DRA. What a performance from Rick. And now we see all the position changes happening right now. With Upek in second place. Still a decent drive from NRL there. Roby picking up the penalty here. Commentalist in P5 here. Russell right now in P7, but what will happen to JR? JR up to P5 there. At the end did struggle with the tires, but P5 is still a very good position to be in. Lucas Supremo in P10. Marty up to P9 here. As Max actually retired before the line somehow. Seep has, I think, run out, and I'm not sure how that happened to Marcus here. Bas in P12. Lucas Supremo P11, like I said already. Nathan P14 didn't disqualify, but 27 seconds. Lucolor and Mike just waiting for them to finish the race. But what an incredible race we saw right here. But some interesting battles for sure. But we certainly saw a great race here. But the stewards gonna have fun. And this certainly I don't think will be the final result here. But hopefully everyone enjoyed. As we see Ruud Gullit driver of the day, I think I can somewhat agree with it. He did really well there for moving up so many positions. Here, and of course we see now the podium celebrations here. A very special podium here in Mexico. And now we see the champagne here. What a performance from Rick. He's done really well. And I think DRA needed that, especially after a tough result in Hungary. A very well deserved win in my eyes. As we're now gonna quickly switch on board or scroll to the results. We have Rick pick up the win from Upek and Roby in third place, so good job from him. Ruud Gullit in P4 from last on the grid, ahead of JR, Commentalist, R1. DJ Gilla, who I think without the damage would have been certainly on the podium, but unfortunate for him. And then Marty in P9, showing that if you don't pick up not a lot of penalties, then you can move in the points. And P9 I think is an okay result for him. Russell in P10, I think if he just improved his racecraft a bit, then he certainly would have done a better result of that. And then Lucas Supremo, Bas, Seep, Nathan, Ivan, Mike, Lucolor, Marcus and Job Lammers rounding out the places. We're gonna end the stream right here. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this Grand Prix. I certainly have, with some interesting moves though. But we'll be back next week for the French Grand Prix around Paul Ricard. Here, so we'll see you next week once again for the IRT event. Hopefully you guys are looking forward, and we'll see you guys later. Bye guys.